So I love that question. Um, this is one that I would tweak a little bit to say, what are the challenges I've chosen? I got in a habit though very early on of accepting every challenge I could, even if I was doing things very uncomfortable. So I know we're we in Loosemore next week,
Hmm.
is that right? Some
Yeah.
some of my first public speaking opportunities were in that room, and they terrified me. And frankly, I was awful at it at the outset. Um, in fact, I remember one of my colleagues at the Hauenstein Center after my very first presentation in Loosemore. I walked to the back of the room and she said, it really makes me crazy when people lean in and out of the microphone because it changes the volume so much, which was sort of her way of giving me indirect feedback that was very, very valuable. And I went back and watched the video later, and in fact, that's exactly what I was doing, was leaning in and out of the microphone. And so people got this really interesting, would be a way to put it, interesting audio experience from that. So that's it's a challenge that was offered to me, a challenge I accepted. There were lots of those back at Grand Valley, and there have been lots since. I can remember um, being offered an opportunity to apply for a position that was way out of my league at a university on the East Coast. But I was invited to apply, so I figured I'd give it a try, put it in. And I was actually one of a few that was invited out to interview. And so they flew me out to the East Coast for this interview. And they let me know maybe the week prior that the university president was going to be there, the provost was going to be there, multiple deans were going to be there. Um, the In fact, the chairman of their board of trustees, who also happened to be the lead donor for this new center that I was interviewing to lead, was going to be there as well. So again, way out of my league, but an opportunity to accept a challenge, try something uncomfortable, and see how it goes. Um, didn't do terribly well. It was an intimidating situation. I went after it. Um, didn't get selected for the position, and later found out, the person who did was a Harvard PhD who had just created the Air Force Academy's leadership programming. And so, as I said, the position was out of my league. But here was the key. I came away from that experience with clarity on a few areas where I really needed to develop myself beyond the credential. And so over the next several months, I was offered an opportunity, for example, at Grand Valley to teach. I'd never taught before. It was another thing that felt uncomfortable. But I knew from that interviewing experience that teaching was going to help me develop a new level of expertise that was going to be really crucial to the next phase of my career that I saw myself going down. Um, so again, put myself in an uncomfortable position, learned a lot from it. It was a challenge I chose. U of M, very similar. Coming here, I was that much more confident in my ability to first of all go through a pretty rigorous interview process because I had done it before. But the nature of the position here was such that I knew it was going to play to some of my strengths that I developed at Grand Valley, but I also knew it was going to stretch me in some really important ways, give me opportunities to do things that I had no idea how to do. And so it was, again, just a challenge I chose. And, almost 4 years later, I think I've come a long way. I feel like I've come a long way, and it's because I took those challenges on. So everybody likes a good story. So I'm going to have some stories I'm going to tell that'll help draw out some points. One being that these leaders, these students, as they're developing, there's opportunities to lead from any place in an organization. We've had this traditional sort of idea that leaders are the people at the top of the organization. Even at the Hauenstein Center, just naturally with that focus on the presidency, there tends to be a little bit of a focus on people who are leaders of authority, right? Who have formal authority and therefore have an opportunity to lead. But some of the stories I'm going to tell are going to be about people who aren't at that level of an organization, who are highly effective in influencing others even when they don't have authority, who are highly effective at motivating others, connecting with others, helping the team achieve big things together, even without formal authority. Another area I want to get into is really the difference between a leader's mindset and a leader's skill set. The mindset, I think, comes earlier, and it's something that even in the context of an undergraduate education, again with zero formal authority in most cases, it's something you can start practicing. Is having a mindset that I'll cover in a little more detail next week. I already teed this up a little bit, but stories about the importance of authenticity versus inauthenticity, which sounds funny. Obviously, everybody's on board with authentic leadership. But there's really something to be said for especially undergraduate students who don't have much experience yet, and even grad students to a different level, being willing to take some risks and try things that don't feel like you, that are uncomfortable, that you've never done before. And from that experience to learn more about yourself, you know. And so over time, when you do these things, they start to become authentic. They start to feel authentic. But there has to first be a willingness to really step outside of the bounds of your comfort. So some stories in that area too. Finally, I've got a couple tools that I want to share. I talked about that rootedness that's so important to leadership. I've got a tool that I'll share that will help students think about how do you build a foundation for your leadership now by developing that greater rootedness. And another tool that I'm not going to give away yet because you have to come to the talk to get it, but it's something that was created by one of our leading faculty members here at Ross, just brilliant person who's been here about 40 years and is still blowing everyone away. But the tool is basically 4 questions you can ask yourself in any given situation. So for the students, if you're trying to help, a roommate through the sophomore slump, or you're trying to get through finals week, or you're trying to build a student org, these are 4 questions you can ask to really peak your leadership capacity, your influence. For graduate students, for professionals, members of the community, if you're on your way into a board meeting, if you're in the midst of a crisis, if you're trying to turn around an employee's performance. Again, it's 4 questions, simple questions that you can just build into a daily habit that, again, help you maximize that influence and put yourself into a state of mind where you're going to be just that much more effective as a leader. So it's going to be a combination of stories with a few lessons and a couple tools that have been extremely helpful for me personally, and that we integrate into everything that we do here at Ross. So I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing everybody.